Hey, welcome to Guitar Knobs, the guitars, gear, noise, and nonsense podcast, hosted today by these knobs.
Tony Dudzik, Pick Guardian.
Hey everybody, it's me, Todd Novak. Welcome to the Guitar Knobs podcast. Well, we are thrilled to death that you're listening to our show. We got a real fun one because we've got one of my personal best friends in the world.
Oh, thanks, Todd.
I was going to say, hey, Tony.
Yes. Well, I have to pay Tony, so that doesn't really count.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, yes. I actually honestly have two of my best buds in the world, and I'm thrilled to death. Go ahead, introduce yourself.
Go for it, Tony.
He already did. It's you.
It's you.
Oh, there we go. It's me. Hey, guys. It's Hex from the Whiskey Daredevils. Calling from Cleveland, Ohio.
Beautiful, sunny Cleveland, Ohio.
And from the famed Vox speaker shootout on the YouTube channel.
I saw him. I saw him on the YouTube channels.
Those cool blue vans that you see is me.
Yeah. We are going to actually be talking about that video. We've been waiting a while.
Is that what this show's about?
Yeah, we're reviewing. We're doing our verbal review of like what we experienced with that. And we're going to have a really great time.
Yep.
So we have, I'm trying to think of announcements. We're wrapping it. We're getting awfully close to the end of the year.
Yeah,
here,
it's almost ho-ho-ho time.
And I think we're just barely going to get the 400th episode in by the skin of our teeth.
Perfect.
Dude, really?
Well,
Damn.
we're recording it next week. So
400.
I know. I think it might be airing at the beginning of 2025. If I am trying to remember exactly how that's going to work.
That's crazy. 400 episodes.
I know. We're really excited, and
seems like it's only the first one.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. No. It is kind of remarkable to think of all that's happened in between time. But we're not talking about that now. We're talking about that later. But our next couple episodes are going to be great. We got a great pedal builder on after this episode.
Yes.
And we also have a 4-on-the-floor tremolo shootout.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So that's where the hummingbird kind of come into play?
No. But
No?
anyways.
That's a cool freaking pedal, man.
Well, it is, but we're going to get into why we picked the ones that we chose. There's lots and lots of those really cool pedals.
Hey, Airquaker, if you're listening, that's my favorite tremolo pedal ever.
Perfect.
Yeah.
It'll make its way onto another one because categorically we ran into a snag with that. So
Yes.
anyways,
You're going to have to tell me that off the record on the side because I'm really curious about the snag.
yes, we will. So anyways, we are going to get moving along. We have a lot of ground to cover.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. So,
Well, wait a minute. Before we start,
Yeah.
why don't we tell people where they can go find that video?
oh my gosh, yeah, Tony, tell us.
Well, if you head over to YouTube and you go into the Guitar Knobs section, you will find a video link. Click on the video tab, and it has it has the video for the alnico speaker shootout.
Yeah, easy for you to say.
Alnico.
Yeah, that is wedged in between episode 393 and 394. And you're like, how can it be one of because those ones are the podcast episodes, but this video was put in between there. And it's called the alnico speaker shootout. Lead with that. Vox AC30S1.
Yes.
Hey, on a side note, every guitar player has it's like capo or capo.
Yeah.
Alnico. I've heard so many variations of those words.
It should be technically alnico.
Yes.
Aluminum,
Yes.
nickel,
Yes.
cobalt.
Very good.
Oh.
I know. I
That's
learned a few
perfect.
things being on the show, huh?
Wow.
And guess what? And I just learned what that actually meant because I never knew.
There you go.
That it is.
And
It's-
everybody else, maybe. Who knows?
It's a blend of those things.
It is a blend. Yes. It's like
an alloy, if you will.
It's like a 3-layer salsa dip.
Ooh, I do like a 3-layer salsa dip.
Yeah,
Nice.
the beans and boy, you have to leave out a lot of good stuff if you only do a 3-layer dip.
I want a 5-layered. That's why I like alnico 5.
Yeah. Let's get into what's going on in our music world this week. Tony,
Yes.
why don't you kick us off and then we'll check in with Hex.
Well, Todd, I had some spare time this week, so I decided to watch Let It Be, which apparently was remastered or whatever they did to it in just this year, 2024. And I had seen it several times over the years. I don't know that I saw it when it first came out in 1970, but delicious. In addition to that, I decided to also go back and give the Get Back series, the 3-parter from 2021, another try because I had a bad feeling about that.
Okay.
So is that the one that
you
has
saying
all
you
of
got
them
a
in a
feeling?
circle?
I got a feeling.
And they're like writing music and Yoko's sitting next to John.
Yeah.
I turned it off because I'm like, I can't do this.
So what I remember of seeing Let It Be over the years several times was that I always had a feeling that it was kind of sad and it was just there was a lot of infighting. Mm-hmm. But after rewatching the Get Back 3-part series, Let It Be actually is a little bit more fun. But a couple of takeaways. So in Let It Be, the things that I forgot or didn't realize, how much time, this is the first thing, there are 4 things, one for each Beatle.
Jeez.
How much time Paul had his mug on the camera. I mean, there is one section where it's him behind the piano mugging it up, and the rest of the guys might as well be non-existent because it's just Paul behind the piano.
Right.
Yeah, that's because he was the cute one.
Yeah, whatever.
Ask my wife about that one because even though she's a Ringo person, she's a drummer.
Yeah.
I can't say nothing wrong about Paul McCartney.
Yeah. I can, though.
Careful.
Number 2. I didn't realize how much fun John had when Yoko wasn't around.
Oh man.
I mean,
I believe that.
It was night and day from the rehearsals when Yoko's sitting right next to him to when they're in the basement practicing with Billy Preston.
Yeah.
And he just let loose and was having fun. Actually, all of them were having fun when Yoko wasn't in the room.
It's also very interesting to see how much Billy Preston really had to do with that. Holy mackerel.
He was something else. And even more so, that comes clear in the Get Back versus Let It Be. And that a little side note with the John having fun with no Yoko. So originally, Rick Nielsen and Bunny Carlos were supposed to play on the Double Fantasy albums.
Oh, wow.
And there was one song that was cut, and it was basically after Yoko found out John was having too much fun when they were in the studio. Mm-hmm. Oh, and Tony Levin was playing bass with those guys.
Oh, jeez.
There's a YouTube video that
that's a monster band. I need to watch this.
Yeah, it's called it was I'm Losing You is the unpublished cut. It was actually they scrapped it. Yoko fired.
Tony, this is only an hour show. Bro.
I know. Yoko fired those guys.
Oh my God.
And a lot of it had to do because John was having fun, I think.
Yeah.
I don't like Yoko either.
That's another show.
Yeah, that's a whole. We could spend 3 hours on that.
We're not going to spend any time on that.
Okay, number 3.
Amen. George
was an incredibly good, maybe great guitar player. The one that really struck me was on Two of Us, the song Two of Us. It's John and Paul playing acoustics, and George is playing all of those kind of bassy riff lines on the Rosewood Telecaster. Mm-hmm. And so that struck me. And then 4th, was what a solid drummer Ringo was. Even if he's just...
These are revelations, Tony. I'm so glad that you're sharing this.
Well, I'm just this is just something. I just watched it. So,
yeah.
But even when he's just, clicking the hi-hat.
Yeah.
He is solid. I mean, there is no deviation, and he was.
I'm sure he'd be happy to hear this.
Well,
and the funny thing, now that you bring that up, is like one of the many times that my wife's a Beatles fan, I'm a Stones fan, and we've had the drummer conversation. She's a drummer, and she was the one that actually told me, just watch Ringo, they'll do this. Just listen to this song. And I'm like, oh my God. It's just like, it's like he is so good that he goes unnoticed because he's that good.
Yeah.
Like me.
Yeah.
In my band.
And Charlie Watts is no slacker either. I mean, he was a great jazz drummer.
Yes.
So anyhow, so long story even longer. If you have a chance, watch the 2024 release. It's on Disney Plus, I think, now. I'm still not happy. I still have a bad feeling about the Get Back series. It was too long.
Do you think they're going to break up?
I think there might be a pretty good chance. Yeah.
I'm going to go with it too long. It's a big deterrent because that's the problem that I had.
Yeah.
And even, again, being married to a Beatles fan, even she was like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
It's like too much. It's just like, give me the good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what Let It Be is.
Yeah, Let
it's
It
the
Be is
good
great.
stuff. Except for all of Paul's mugging.
Yeah. Anyways. All right, Tony. Thank you so much. Hex, how about yourself?
Oh, music-wise, pretty much. It's like always going down to the sound rabbit hole. And I think I finally got like a good, I'm very happy with the way things are going with my sound. And I guess when we go to the 4 on the floor, we will discuss that a little bit more. Besides that, that's pretty much it. Nothing exciting. There's a couple of shows coming up.
Yeah.
Next week. Actually, this is the last show of the month. And it's going to be in Cleveland at the Grog Shop with a couple of other bands, friends of ours. But I was just looking at our show calendars. We're pretty much going to have a busy 2025.
That's awesome, man.
So,
will Santa be
cool.
at your next show?
No, because I don't want to get any coal.
Excellent.
Unless Santa likes to drink whiskey, then he'll be there.
I think Santa loves whiskey.
Well, for me,
How about
this
you,
week,
Todd?
I got my book from one of our supporters on Patreon and a very good friend, Matt Hart, who's in a great band in Cincy.
Our poet emeritus.
Yes, it is our poet emeritus. He's a total gear nut, and he happens to have several books published. Mm-hmm. They are books of poetry, and this one is it's a brand new one. It's called Falling Fine. Said selected and new poems, and it's got Matt on the back, and he signed it, wrote some really cool stuff. And it's pretty thick. There's a lot of stuff in here.
How many words?
There's a lot of words. But it says, Matt Hart is a poet of enormous vroom, which is kind of cool. Vast with Whitman's cosmic warmth, but reckless with his own outbursts of punk intensity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, got that, and it's really cool because I know who wrote it, and he means a lot to me, so this book is going to mean a lot to me.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah. You know what, Tony? We're just going to cut to the chase. everybody, go get yourself some Tour Gear Designs patch cables. It has nothing to do with the book, but it does have something to do with...
Well, what if you wanted to plug that book into your
I just
pedal
said
board?
let's get straight to it.
Okay, straight to it.
Yes. Because we took a PTO day for your Beatles thing. Anyways, go get yourself... It's almost Christmas time. Get some gifts for your friends. Get some gifts for yourself. And write Santa on it and say, see, honey, I didn't buy anything. Santa gave it to me.
Right? Smart move.
Yes. Go to tourgeardesigns.com, load up your cart. In the coupon code, put the guitar knobs, and you're going to save 15%.
15%.
That is correct, because Tour Gear is awesome, and they said we value your listeners, and only our listeners get that deal. So that's you. Go there, 15%. You will not be unhappy about it. I can guarantee that with an asterisk.
Yes.
Or two.
I'll guarantee it.
Tony will guarantee it. And he's got a really big lawyer. I mean, he's really big. He's like supersize. Anyways,
it works. It works as good as taking it's just an empty guitar case. There's nothing in it.
Yeah,
it doesn't work either.
Not yet.
Yeah, I've tried that one. It doesn't work.
Yeah. So, anyways, we want to say a huge thanks to Tour Gear for sponsoring our 4 on the Floor. Tony?
Yes, and thank you for helping me with my board.
Perfect. See? Another satisfied customer.
Let me get a little bit of this.
1, 2, 3. 4 on the floor.
All right. Hex Mattos. Give us your 4 on the floor.
Oh, my 4 on the floor at this moment this is going to be my 4 on the floor for a while, because it just like it actually, like, all the dots have been connected. So right now, and you're going to have to help me with this one. It's just like I'm actually like, my band started bringing songs that they used to do like a long time ago. And I needed just like something like a little bit, just like more like dirtier and raunchy. I wouldn't actually like say like raunchier. It's just kind of like a little bit of controlled chaos for this song. And I needed just like a little bit more dirt. And you actually like got me into the unclean. And who makes that pedal? Because I completely forgot to put in my notes. There we go.
Yeah, the unclean.
And as
Tony's going to tell us when they were on the show.
Yeah, and as soon as I plugged it in, it was just like, that's the sound. And what's actually funny is that I talked to the guitar player that recorded that song, and when he was I think like he used like a Rangemaster, like he stacked pedals, and he heard me playing the song through the unclean. He's like, dude, you got it just right. He's like, what are you using? And then he told me what he used to record it. And I'm like, no, I'm just using this. And he's like, oh my God, it's the exact same sound. So that pedal is like, is amazing. It looks cool. And what I like about it is just like all the pedal hunters that always look at my pedal board.
Yeah. It's
like they're all scratching their heads. What is that? What is that? And it's just like, it's a cool pedal, easy to dial in. And just the fact that it has like two different, it's kind of like a stacked overdrive in one box. And it's
really interactive controls on it too, which is
and
if you move left, it makes something happen on the other pedal. If you go right, or in the other knob, so they're very interactive.
So Todd, go ahead.
Yeah, go. No, I literally had to take a picture of my settings, and every time I take out my board when I play a show, I look at the picture to make sure that's on the right spot, because just to get that sound.
Yeah.
And it's worth it.
Pardon my interruption.
Yes.
I've
Go
got
for it.
Very important information.
Yes.
Episode number 384.
384.
With non-human audio.
Yep.
So check it out.
Yeah, it's great. He was a great guest. Makes great
Yeah.
stuff.
So
What's number 2?
at number 2, we're gonna go with the baloney.
Yeah, baby.
The Tony Baloney pedal.
For that extra rancid sound.
Yes, and number 2 is gonna work into number 3. So
By the way, you
When
can
I-
purchase one of those.
Are they still
Tony
available?
Baloney pedals. Yes, we have some left.
Oh, okay, cool. How would you go
it's
about
for
getting
a
one?
good cause.
Yeah, it does go to charity. If you're interested in getting it, it's based on the Sparkle Drive, which makes sense because Hex, the guitars you play and the amp you play, the Sparkle Drive is a great pedal for those things. You can just send me a note, DM me, do whatever you need to do, get a hold of us on the Guitar Knobs, and you can get your very own Tony Baloney pedal. You can also go to @TonyBaloney pedal on Instagram
Instagram, yeah.
and send a message there. Okay, go ahead. Number 3.
And so number 3 is the Sparkle Drive. And the Sparkle Drive is a pedal that I use kind of like my clean sound is technically not clean. It's like a mixture of clean and like a little bit of dirt. And the Sparkle Drive is always been my like go-to pedal. And the one that I have right now has been modded by Joe from Hello Sailor. He
excellent.
actually brought it back to life and he added some tweaks to it. And it's pretty much it's like the best sound like I've ever heard coming out of my guitar. And it actually just made it even like more inspiring. Like I literally don't have to think about anything and just play. Since that's like my number 1 sound, adding the baloney on, like as like a higher up, it's just like it's perfect.
Awesome.
So is your Sparkle an always on?
Yeah.
Okay.
So like it's pretty much just like Sparkle Drive and Echo. If I need a little bit more dirt, then it's the baloney. Then if I need more dirt, we're gonna go to my number 4, which is the Nobles ODR. And if you ever want to make your Vox sounds like a Marshall, that's the pedal.
Okay.
Because it doesn't change your tone
Is it just
at all.
it gives you a little compression, or
It gives you compression. You can actually do pinch harmonics it's like those 3 pedals. I can actually switch from them, and the tone doesn't change. The dirt changes; it gets dirtier, but the tone is consistent. So it actually it's like the way it actually sounds is like if I was standing, like I play with an AC30. So it will be like if I was playing and I want to get dirty and I just crank the top boost volume. And then I want to get dirtier and I crank that up more. The tone doesn't change, but the dirt does.
got it.
It sounds kind of weird, but that's pretty much it, and that's where I've always wanted to be at.
What version of that is it?
The Nobles, I have no clue.
Okay, so it's
Because
not. Is it a recent
been-
purchase?
I actually got it used on Reverb,
Okay.
and I have no idea what version it is. It just sounds great. Like I never pay attention. Oh, I need to get like this version or what. I just
The biggest way that you can tell is like the original ones were they're in the several $100s range.
yeah,
I
that wasn't
believe.
me. Trust me. I'm a working musician.
Yeah.
I'm not into several hundred, like unless it's something special, which I do own some of, like some of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But, like it just, like I was using the bonsai before and
Yeah.
I took it out and I replaced it with this.
I believe like the original. I'm pretty sure it's in a silver box, not a green box.
Okay, yeah, the one that I have is a green box with a
And
top loading
the
battery.
silver one is like $800, something around
Nah.
there.
Yeah, that it's starting to get like clone mythology on its own.
Oh,
But
that might be
it
the
may,
10th anniversary one.
but the thing too is that it makes sense because like a lot of the guitar players that like I listen to one that I like, that are based in Nashville, it's like that pretty much replaced their tube screamer.
Right.
And I'm like, well, why the hell did that replace a tube screamer? And then I'm like, oh, now I get it.
Yeah.
And especially if you're playing with a Vox, and this is a Vox episode, which is actually perfect. We're talking about this. It's just like a lot of people say Vox amps are not good with pedals. It's not that they're not good with pedals. It's that you have to find the right voicing. Because first of all, if you got a Vox, it's because you like the Vox sound. And you do not want to change that by adding a pedal on top of it. You want to keep the essence. You just want to give it different, like a different character.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much how I go about overdrives. And it just like, if it does not change the sound of my amp, it just adds to it, doesn't change. I'm perfectly fine with it. And besides, like all these pedals I talked about, and it just like, like Joe from Hello Sailor, like he knows for some weird reason, he's like a mad genius when it comes to like picking up pedals that sound good with a Vox, the Abbey Road, the Kossoff Drive, like all his, it's like there's amps that you can actually, pretty much you can color and there's not a problem. But Voxes, they have a very distinctive sound. And when you use them, it's because you want that sound and you do not want to deviate from it.
Yeah.
So,
well, and to clarify, I think that the one that you got one of the recent reissues, but the early ones from the '90s are in the pushing $1,000 range. But then there's also the mini ones, which you can get for like super cheap too. Those are put out in the 2010s. And they've got a couple special editions and whatever. But there's a lot of different ways into that pedal. I mean, just a regular one that put out in 2020 is probably like about $100, maybe just under that, maybe 80 to 100, something like that.
I think like the one that I picked up on Freeware, I think I paid like $75 for it.
Yeah. Yeah,
and it was worth it.
Yeah, I might have to check one of those out. Anyways, okay, cool. Well, thank you for giving us your updated 4 on the floor. And I'm glad to see that the Tony Baloney pedal made it to your board. It's a great pedal.
Yeah,
so,
it is.
Consider that, friends. We need to make sure that those all get bought up and that all that money goes to charity. Okay. Let's get on with talking about the speaker shootout that we did. That, again, is available on YouTube. It's not the very first video. You have to kind of look for it, maybe just a couple down right now. But it's there. It's there. It's great.
As the picture has the speakers on it.
Yes, indeed.
It's actually not. It's not the logo of the podcast.
Correct. It's the only one that's not the logo on the podcast. Yeah. Fortunately, a lot of people have said, "Oh, great to see you guys in person. We should do more of these." I'm like, man, it takes. It
was a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
A lot of work.
Anyways, so more importantly, the speakers. Why did we do this, Tony?
Well, we did this because you had purchased a Vox AC30. But it was a single 12 AC30.
The S1.
Yes, the AC30S1.
And because the natural choice to change out the speaker would be to go to an alnico blue, which is typically what would be in a Vox. Well, 2 of them would be in a Vox AC30.
Yeah.
The problem being alnico blues are rated at about 15, maybe 20 watts on a good day.
Yeah.
So you'd be blowing up speakers. So we had to find a single 12 alnico that would handle what and 30 Vox watts is a lot of watts.
Right. And just really quickly, some people say, what about greenbacks? Well, greenbacks are ceramic speakers. Can you just give us a really, actually both you guys just chime in. What is the difference between the sound, the overall vibe and sound of an alnico speaker versus a ceramic speaker? In general.
Yeah,
In general, I can actually tell you from I actually have an AC15 with greenbacks, and my AC30 has the blue alnico ones. And again, this is just through my ear how it sounds to me. The blue ones are brighter. The alnicos, they're brighter. But the greenbacks is kind of like a happy marriage between a Vox and a Marshall. Like it gives you the Vox vibe and the jangle, but it has that oomph.
Yeah.
That you can hear from like a Marshall cab.
Yeah.
And it's
very
weird
tight
because,
bottom end.
Yeah, like I rehearse with my AC15 in the studio at home with the band, and my AC30 with the blues, like with the blue alnicos, like it's on our travel band. So it's like I get to, like experience that when I do live shows. And it's like it takes me like a good minute just for my ear to adjust to that. And I set them up different just because of that. And both speakers are great. It's just like, and actually, like I know a lot of people that actually take an AC30 and put a blue alnico and a greenback just to get like it's just like I still haven't ventured into that. But I can see why, like, people do it.
Yeah.
Because it's just like they're both great speakers with Vox, and
they complement each other really well too.
Yeah, and the thing is that Vox is like it's a particular amp. Like it has its sound.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a Marshall. It's just like you buy a Marshall, you want it to sound like a Marshall. You don't want it to sound like anything else.
Yeah.
And us Vox players are the same way.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Tony?
Well, I agree with everything Hex said. The one thing you will notice is I think alnico speakers break up a little bit faster.
Yes.
And they do tend to be brighter. And me personally, I have a 212 Dr. Z cabinet, and I have a Celestion Gold and a Celestion Greenback. Now, we couldn't do just a single greenback in yours because greenbacks are only rated at about 25 watts.
Right.
So, again, you could probably get away with it if you don't really
push it too hard.
But, in the perfect world, a Vox AC30 should have two speakers.
Yeah.
Okay, on a quick side note, is that the reason why that AC30S1 came up with like a hybrid Celestion speaker?
Yes, I had one of those, and it had one of the what's the, oh my God, now I can't think of the
model number. I think it's a Celestion VX. It's actually it's on the video because that's the first one.
Oh, it's a VX12, the Vox VX12.
Yours is, but I had an
which is actually a 7080.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I had an earlier version of what you had, and it had one of the Celestion neodymium speakers.
Oh, yeah.
They're
No.
horrible.
Yeah, I'm not a fan
Horrible.
of that. Not a fan of that.
And that's...
that must have sounded so harsh.
It was not good.
Yeah. So that's generally, is it safe to say, the alnico speaker sounds a little sweeter, and the ceramic is a little darker.
I think in terms of, if you're going for a real vintagey tone, the alnicos are the way to go. If you want more of a rock / Marshall-y tone,
well,
the greens
I don't want
to
say we keep going to Marshall. It's like we don't want it to sound like a Marshall. It's just there's a tighter.
You mean like the tighter Marshall, but with the Vox jangle.
Yeah.
That's exactly what you would end up with.
So in this case, we wanted to sweeten it up a little bit because the stock speaker was just just kind of flat.
It was okay.
It's just, it's okay. It's not the worst thing in the world. It's not the best. And if in this case, since we wanted to say, well, what can this actually sound like? That's what we were going for. It's not. We didn't set out to say which speaker is the best speaker that you can have, because that's totally subjective.
Oh, yeah.
Depending on what kind of guitar, what kind of music, what kind of room you're in, what your bass sounds like, all that stuff. We just want to say, what are some ways that we can make this sound better, right? Okay,
yeah.
So the fine folks at Avatar provided us with this fantastic convertible cabinet, which made it really easy to swap out the speakers for us. So huge thanks to Avatar.
And it should be noted
yes,
that
thank you very much.
We took the stock Vox speaker
and put it in the Avatar.
Yeah. We were comparing apples to apples to apples.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So they also provided us with the Avatar A50, which is a 50-watt alnico speaker. We got a speaker from Amperion. We got the VSOP, which is a 30-watt speaker, and all these are alnico. We got a Fane, also provided to us from Avatar, and that was the Ascension A60. That was a 60-watt speaker. Then we also had the Celestian Gold that Tony brought in, and that's a 50-watt speaker. So we didn't do everything has to be a 50-watt speaker. I don't even know if there's enough alnico speakers out there to be able to do that. There's not.
If you went to that rabbit hole, we still wouldn't be shooting that video today.
That's true. That's true. So what we did is we did try to get a range from speakers that we know to be good, from brands we know to be good, and did that range. And I think it's good that we did that, because the differences that we heard from like higher wattage when played low versus lower wattage when played high and all that stuff, that all played into it. So we not only found sounds that we liked and speakers we liked, but we understood the differences between, like, hey, you don't just necessarily dump a 75-watt speaker into a 30-watt amp and think, well, more is better.
Yeah, one thing I learned is that there's a lot more science to it than what I initially thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Like usually you just, it's just a speaker. No, it changes everything, and it also depends on the guitar you're playing.
Right.
And it's...
Well, and to that point, what we did, and you'll see this in the video if you haven't already, we played all 5 of those speakers. We're really only going to be talking about the alnicos, because the Vox 8 VX12, which came stock, is a ceramic.
Right.
That being said, we have in the video, we play all 5 of those speakers with a Telecaster, with a humbucker pickup or a humbucker guitar from Gullet. So thanks to Gullet for bringing that over. And we have it in a P90, Hex's personal Les Paul special, as well as his Fender Cabernita with TV Jones pickups in it.
Yeah.
So we had all the ranges.
Yeah.
And it was really, really interesting to hear each of those speakers in each of those guitars played clean and dirty.
Yeah.
And that's what you're going to find on the video. And it's really easy. The reason that we separated everything, we played all of them with the Telecaster. Then we played them all with the humbucker, and et cetera, et cetera. We did that because a lot of times if someone's trying to like really hone in your amp, you're like, my guitars are humbuckers. So I don't want to wade through a shootout and hopefully I find out like, well, when are they going to play this? Or, it's like we try to do it as methodically as possible. And by the way, you can skip to whichever one you want to very easily on that video.
Yeah.
And pretty much what you're also getting, sorry to interrupt, you're actually getting like a rhythm guitar. There's no like leads, there's no
right.
background music. It's just straight to the point, meat and potatoes. this is what it sounds like when you're playing
You
clean
played a
chords
clean
and when you're
riff
playing
and
dirty chords.
Right.
Yeah.
You did a clean riff and you did a dirty riff, and it's the same for each of them. So
Yeah, and it should be noted that through the magic of John Fintel and relay recording, every riff is the exact same riff that was digitally recorded and then fed back through for each different speaker.
Yeah.
So, we didn't want to wear Hex out.
yeah.
And two,
It was fun though.
but any player, if you can play exactly what you played, 2 minutes ago, God bless you.
Yeah.
Because, and so this is a true comparison of what each of those speakers sounds like with the exact same riff.
Exactement. So that being said, you all can go watch that and hear it, but we wanted to talk about what our experiences with the actual speakers themselves were. And huge thanks to John here at Fintel, Fintel here at Relay Recording for taking the time and facilitating that and recording everything.
Hey,
Couldn't have done it
John,
without him.
thanks again.
And one thing that you can't really get from the video is when we were in the studio room, there is a certain amount.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that.
I mean that's that you can hear what the speakers sound like,
feel what it
but
sounds like too.
Yeah, what you feel is a lot different.
I will say one thing that I experienced, because I then took it back home and I basically redid the whole thing at my own house, because I really wanted to spend time, because I was looking for the right speaker.
Mm-hmm.
And so I ran it through my pedal board and everything. I mean, it took a whole day to do it. And the difference, and I didn't really realize this about the alnico speakers, I feel like where you are in front of them is a little bit more it's a different response than a ceramic speaker. A ceramic speaker, you kind of can walk around in front, walk up and back. It stays pretty much the same, but
yeah, it's very focused. Alnico speakers are very focused.
Yeah, the directionality, if that's a word, is quite different.
It is now
on an alnico speaker, and I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
So, at any rate, let's get into it. We're first going to talk about the Avatar A50. That's this 50-watt speaker, which has gotten really high marks in the comments on the actual video. This, again, it sounded fantastic. I mean, all of these speakers sound really great.
Yeah.
There wasn't a donkey in the bunch, right? But we have to be particular.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
we have discerning taste.
yeah. So Tony, why don't you tell us what you thought about the Avatar A50?
To me, it sounded very familiar.
Okay.
Now I'm used to like Celestian Gold. That's my thing. I have a Celestian Blue in my other Vox, and so that sound to me is very familiar. I know what it should sound like, what those speakers do. And to me, I thought that the Avatar A50 was a pretty decent replacement for those.
Okay.
In fact, in some cases, as we went through all the trials, and I especially noticed on the dirty examples, that one really opened up in the mid highs, maybe even more so than the Celestian Gold did.
Yeah.
I mean, it was an immediate impact, and I think in a band situation, if you have bass player in their spectrum, vocals in their spectrum, this one shifts it to a point where the guitar I think would stand out nicely.
Yeah. Little bit of a rounder bottom end on that speaker, I think I found, if I recall correctly.
There's not a lot of I would say, well, I don't think any of these speakers had a super loud.
They weren't
bottom
pronounced,
end.
and I don't mean loud. I just mean a little bit more rounder than tighter.
Yeah, I think that the alnico speakers in general, that their specialty is mids and upper mids.
Right.
And actually, and I think if you like to gravitate to that high end, like high end register, the Avatar A50 was the one, because it was actually like, to me, it was like a little, the trebles on it were more prominent than the other speakers.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. It played pretty nicely with each of the guitars, but I think it did the where I heard it do the best is with the P90s.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the P90 is dirty.
Yeah. And pretty much, I mean, I took most of them. We did them clean, but I really only ever played dirty. So, like, I kind of sat
It's
in the
kind of
dirty
like the
world.
same thing with me. It's just like I listen to the clean stuff,
Yeah.
but like the dirty is what actually.
And that's where you see the
Yeah.
alnico really come alive, I think.
Yeah, because they break
Yeah.
up. They do break up sooner than a lot of.
And
other
I think
speakers.
it's worth mentioning that in the dirty signal, we were running at about maybe lower gain, but gain enough. Maybe about 12 o'clock on the gain scale.
It's
a
pretty
morning
much
glory
about.
pedal.
It's kind of like about the same game that I personally use
Yeah.
when I play.
And that was
So-
we had the JHS Morning Glory running into that for that. So
Okay.
Yeah.
It I didn't think it sounded necessarily. Didn't sound bad on any of them. I felt like it maybe sounded the flattest on in the humbucker range. It didn't have as much of the sparkle as some of the other ones did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but the thing too is that also like that humbucker just has that kind of like fatter,
Right.
like bottom endy, like
Yeah,
it's a thicker pickup, like if you think about, like we did like the Telecaster single coils, we did P90s, which is single coils.
Yeah.
That TV Jones Filtertrons are humbucker style.
Yeah.
But they're
But essentially,
based
they sound like on
a trebly pickup.
Yeah.
So with the Avatar, I think because that one also didn't have as much, it probably had the least amount of bottom end that any of the other ones did. So maybe that's why it kind of maybe didn't know what to do as much there. I would still take any of these speakers over the VX12 any day of the week.
any of them were.
So that was the Avatar 50. And then once we kind of go through what we thought of these, I think what we're going to do is just kind of say which ones, what we thought overall and which ones we liked in particular. Okay. So then the Amperion VSOP, that's a 30-watt speaker. Tony?
This one did not, to my ear at least. I mean, it definitely sounded like an alnico speaker. There was something about the characteristics of maybe it was the wave or whatever, but it had a little more bottom end, I would guess, than the Avatar, but it just, to me, this one sounded the flattest of the bunch.
I wrote down mid-range heavy. Am I in the same ballpark as what you're talking about?
I mean, I thought that the Fanes and the Celestian Gold definitely, well, upper mid range on both of those. But yeah, I can see where you're coming from. Like I said,
It's kind of like a little bit, kind of like muffled in a way.
Yeah, I could hear that.
Yeah.
Interesting. For me, I felt that the Amperion had the broadest spectrum of the mid range, from lower mid to higher mid. It felt the most, I guess maybe normalized. Where some of the other speakers, when you're playing certain things or when the volume's up a little higher, there was a lot of frequency, like spiking almost.
And you see, and this is when it comes to like taste of what you like to hear.
And I think what Todd is describing, Hex, is kind of what you felt was mid range heavy, because maybe because it was more pronounced over a wider range of the mid range.
It's that frequency where just like it's not bass, it's not treble, it's just there, and there's a lot of it.
Yeah. I think on the it didn't have as much lower end because when you're saying mid range heavy, to me that makes it sound like it's kind of like
No. I mean
all.
what I actually meant by mid range heavy was just like out of the three frequencies, the mid range was the most prominent.
Yeah.
Yes.
And for me, because most of my guitars I'm playing are humbuckers, that one seemed to handle the humbucker one of the best. And it didn't. It played really well with all of my range of pedals. Now, that's me at home. When we're talking about the video, I still think it did a really fantastic job of pronouncing all the notes that were being played. I could hear them all clearly, more so maybe than the others.
I think that this one, especially on the dirty examples, it did break up faster, probably because it's the lowest wattage.
Yeah,
I think it's rated at 30.
Yeah,
and I think everything else we were looking at was either 50 or 60.
50 or 60.
So you're going to have a little bit of natural headroom built into that anyhow.
Yeah.
And when you go to a 30 watt speaker, of course, it's going to want to break up faster.
To me, it sounded it had a little bit more of just a sweetness sprinkle across the board. And John actually said, I thought that was this one was really nice. Sorry, I got notes from John Finnell. And I forgot to mention, he said that the Avatar sounded pretty good. It was a little thinner than the other ones, but in a mix, it would cut through really well.
Yeah.
And then, as I just mentioned, he did really like the Empyrean VSOP as well. And I also had the same thing. He said when we were talking about pedals and stuff, like, this one was very friendly across a broad range of pedals. He goes, I totally understand why. And then we had the Fane A60. That's the Ascension A60. And again, Avatar was kind enough to provide that to us from Fane. This one was the highest wattage one that we had.
Yep.
What did you think about that? 20.
I think my favorite combination with this speaker was the humbucker guitar in the dirty mode. To me, that had the sound that I think I was expecting out of a Fane speaker. When you think about the history of Fane, now granted these are newer issue type things, but all the old high watts and many other amps from that era used Fane speakers.
Yeah.
So
which I didn't know. So thank you for telling me that.
Yes.
Which it makes more sense, because this is my impression of that when the humbucker dirty. It's like very clear and all around. Like you can hear like everything.
Yeah.
On that humbucker dirty.
Yeah, and it just had that. Like I said, it's the sound that I expected to hear.
Yeah,
it sounded good in the. Actually, I liked all of these speakers in the. I preferred the dirty mode over the clean mode, but in particular, I thought
who plays clean anyway.
The Beatles do.
I know. Hey, boom, boom. That's another episode.
So I thought that one, and it makes sense that it has a little more clarity because it is the highest wattage speaker in there.
Yeah.
And, you put that in a 412 with a high watt head, man, you got yourself a killer sound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And no use of hearing at all.
What?
After that. I did think that one had some of the more I felt like the bottom end was almost a little clunky. Where from coming out of the Ascension or the Empyrean was smoother overall. This one the sound was great, but if you dug in, it felt like it was it's like
Chuggy.
running
Was it chuggy?
like running in shoes that are a little too big.
But you see, for example, like me personally, I like that chuggy sound. And this is when, again, taste comes into play because it's just like I'm a Vox player, but one thing that I've always liked about Marshall cabs is that chug.
Yeah, no, we're talking about two different
And-
chuggy things then. Because when you said chuggy, then I understood what you meant, like ching ching. I wasn't talking about
Yeah.
that. I
what
was
were you
talking about
talking
it was
about?
it was
You thought it was kind of sloppy.
it was a little sloppy sounding. Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
gotcha.
Like that's what I meant by
Gotcha.
like if you're running in shoes that are a little too big, it's like it's just a little too much odd movement to it that I wasn't really digging.
That makes sense.
Actually, you know what? To me, it felt like if you play out of a harmonic percolator. Like to me, it just there's something like square wheel
out of
square
kilter.
wheels about it. Yeah. So
Yeah.
Interesting.
but that said, with if you take that little part away, which again was a very small factor of that, it was a great sounding speaker, and it covered the mid range very well. I think probably closest to the Empyrean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we have the Celestian Gold.
Did John have anything to say about the
Oh
fan?
yeah, he said. He said I thought that kicked. I liked it. It was honky, a little bit not quite nosy, but let's see. And then he says, but let's see, where are we at? Yeah, he's all over the place. So
And actually, all the stuff that John said is the stuff that I like. Honky, like a little bit nasally.
Yeah.
And it's funny because that's what I sound like in real life. For some reason, there's just something about, especially playing like country and, like outlaw country and stuff like that. That's kind of like the sound.
yeah, it was like
So-
not nasally, like if you pinch your nose, but if you and in the back of your throat. That's
yeah,
what it was
it's just
like.
kind of like it's kind of like a nasal growl is the best way I can describe it.
That's fair. So that was the Fane, but the Celestian Gold, which is what Tony brought in. He's like, I know you're gonna love this. This is the one you're gonna choose.
Okay, can I start with this one?
Yes.
Yes.
It felt like an old comfortable shoe.
Yeah.
And that's exactly, it's like I heard it and I was just like, but they were comparing it to the other speakers. I can actually see where the other ones have qualities that are better.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's pretty much, it's just like the Celestian Gold will be like, here's the measuring stick. And it just like, and this is kind of like this, like a familiar sound. How can you improve it? And this is where the other speakers come into play.
Yeah.
Because that's pretty much like what they actually did. It's just like, this is your bass sound. This is what feels comfortable. How can we improve on that, or what can we add to that sound?
Right.
And that's when after I heard the Celestian Gold, and we're just like, oh my God. But then I had to kind of like stop myself and go like, okay, that's, again, is the comfortable old pair of shoes you put on, what it's going to feel like. And it's fine. But if you want something more, that's when everything else just comes into play.
Tony, thoughts on the Celestian Gold?
I'll just sum it up in one word: home.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the sound. I mean, that's the sound that I've always heard in my head. I've wanted to get out of my rig, and when I finally, moved into the realm of Voxes and Dr. Z's and things like that, which are, many of them are Vox based. That is the sound that I wanted to hear. And yeah, is it a perfect sound? No. It's the right sound, even with the imperfections.
Yeah, but is the sound that when you plug in, especially and any musician that's listening to the podcast right now can familiarize with this?
Well, that's everyone that's listening to a podcast.
Exactly. And it just I can actually tell you before every gig, there's 2 minutes that are the most stressful. It's when you're setting up right after a band, and then when you turn on your amp and you're just hitting it, and then you get that sound, and you're just that's it. It's there. It works.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how I felt when I heard, the Celestian Gold, and not only for the podcast, but for my own sanity, I watched the episode 6 times.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just to make sure that I was actually and like Tony said, home, and I said, old shoe, that Celestian Gold is kind of is that it works sound.
Yeah. So for me, when I heard the Celestian Gold, I was anticipating that was going to be because everybody's like, oh, you're going to Celestian Gold, which I understand. And it definitely delivers the mid-range nasal. It
Yes.
100% does that. What I found is that's kind of only what it did for me personally.
No, that's fair.
And so
It makes sense.
for my music, I struggle. I fought that one. I also found that one, especially when I was turning it up, had there's a couple times where I was like, oh, I got to turn my head here because I was getting into some frequencies that were just actually kind of hurting my ears. I don't know if
Do
that's...
you play in front of your amp? Do you stand in front of it?
Oh,
when
no.
you're doing
I was
these
standing.
things?
I was standing a good 15 feet back.
Okay.
And the I don't. That could be. I did run it with the Vox. Actually, just the volume pushing the Vox, and I did run it with some pedals, and. That one, I struggled with that one. It was so singular in its sound that I just,
And that's, the way I normally run that one is in a 212 cabinet with a greenback, which is a bass voiced greenback.
Which is is going to be the next rabbit hole I'm actually going to open.
Yeah.
Because just listening to these speakers clean and dirty, I've actually had I was actually just sitting there, man, if I actually had the money and the manpower, because again, being a working musician, you have to carry all this stuff with you. And I'm like, oh, I would like to freaking being able to switch cabinets. For example, if I'm going to play a clean country lick and stuff like that, I would like to have the Avatar A50 and just switch into that speaker. And then if I'm going to play, some country punk or outlaw stuff and I need dirtier, I would like to play with this speaker.
Mm-hmm.
And it's it's like the rabbit hole gets deeper and deeper and deeper.
Yeah.
And
that
when
would
you
be
go
pretty
into
easy though, man. Two twin 12 cabs and a head.
Yeah, do you want to start carrying my equipment whenever I play
It would
a
be
gig?
easier to do that than haul around the 30 in the flight case.
Yeah, but at least that lives in the van.
Yeah,
So
that's
I don't have
true.
to worry about it. But the thing is just each of these speakers, they do their own thing and they do it really, really, really well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it pretty much is just the way the video actually came out, it just like, again, like speaker sounds is a matter of taste.
For sure.
It's, like it's like sprinkling salt, like on your food. But the way the video actually like played about, it just like, it gives you like a very unbiased way of displaying these speakers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's pretty much, it's just like, hey, you know what? That's what it sounds like. Clean. That's what it sounds dirty.
Yeah.
That's the sound that I like. That's the speaker I'm going to pick.
Yeah.
And that's why it was actually like good that you actually like clarified at the beginning of the show that this is not a what speaker is the best.
Right.
Is what the speakers sound like in these situations.
Yeah.
So if this is your situation and that's the speaker that you actually like, go for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Get it. It's not, like all the speakers are great, but it all depends on what the sound that you like, the kind of music that you play, the pedals that that you actually like are using.
Yeah.
Like for your music, like there's a lot of variables. And like, again, like if you're listening to this just to, which speaker is the best? It's not a speaker shootout at just what speaker is the best.
Right.
Is a shootout about just like what will work for your situation.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a misnomer, maybe a little bit, to put, we it says speaker shootout because we have to go with nomenclature that people understand. Like, what am I going to expect when I do that? But yes, if we said some super long title, then it'd be like, I don't know what this video is.
Plus, it allowed me to go.
Yeah.
Pew, pew.
Yeah, that's right. So, okay, let's quickly go through what our personal choices for these were. Again, it's not a best to worst.
Yeah.
What did we, if we're going to put that speaker in the amp and take it home, Tony, what are you picking?
I mean, I would probably default to the gold in most circumstances. I did like the Fane on a couple of examples. I thought it had the sound that I really liked. And I also liked the Avatar A50. And I just realized that now that is probably the least expensive of this bunch.
It is. So let's actually say this real quick. The Amperian, I believe, is actually about $270 as we're speaking right now. Mm-hmm. It might actually be like $268 specifically.
Under $3.
The Celestian starts at $320, and it's a little more than that.
And it's usually
more than that. So let's say $340 okay. The Avatar A50 is a paltry $200. And
nice.
the Fane is $265.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a solid investment for to really make your amp come alive.
Yeah.
So back to you, Tony.
Yeah. Like I said,
so you mentioned 3 speakers there. That's not really what we're looking for.
It depends on the situation, but
does that just?
It depends on what you're playing.
What are you playing?
Well, I play a lot of different guitars.
Okay, you got your Rick, you got your favorite Rick, and you got your Vox. What are you doing?
Celestian Gold.
Okay, Celestian Gold.
But if I needed a backup, I'd spring the $200 and get the A50.
You know the saying, everything that you say before the word "but" is horse crap, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Go for it.
Hex,
So I'm going Sea Gold.
Okay. How about you, dude?
And I'm actually basing this on what I play and what my sound is. I will actually go for the Ascension 860. The Fane.
The Fane. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yes. And if it
but
actually,
again, it is a matter of taste and is my sound, and I can actually, especially the TV, when I play my Cavernita, my main guitar, through it, and I just like, you know what, I can actually like, if that speaker was on a backline, I will know that I will actually like get my sound.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have to meddle around, like changing EQs or anything like that.
Yeah.
I know it will actually be perfect.
And they do a lower wattage of that. It's obviously not called the A60, but it is worth noting that, we were talking a lot about the Fane. It was a really great speaker. The only distributor in America for Fane speakers is Avatar.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Avatar
Nice.
speakers, yeah. So, and honestly,
Hooray for Avatar.
Dave is just an absolutely fantastic guy. He was so enthusiastic. So if you're interested in the Fane speaker or the Avatar speaker, please go over to Avatar Speakers and tell him that you heard it from us and get yourself a great speaker.
I will
He's
say,
like, hey, I'm the guy that played on the thing.
There you go.
I will say that that extension cabinet that we used
that
as
was
the tester.
outstanding.
Yeah, it sounded
$325. Man, it was
pretty nice.
incredible. And that's all solid plywood. But actually, was it plywood? Yeah, it was.
It probably was birch. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a killer cab.
It really was. Okay, for me, I went with actually John. John went for the Amperian.
Really?
He did. He chose the Amperian VSOP, and for basically some of the same reasons I did, and some of those reasons also include my experience with these speakers personally in my own home.
Yes.
With my own pedals and all that stuff.
That makes a big difference.
Yeah, it does. And I also chose the Amperian VSOP. It was the most friendly with all of my pedals.
Okay.
And so,
Gotcha.
and I don't just mean the ones that I was playing with Valentino's. I was trying all kinds of pedals because I wanted to be able to make it, work as much as I could. And I played these things over and over, and I swapped each of those speakers out multiple times, and that's the one that my ear kept going. I think that's the one, dude. So for me, that's what I did.
Well, I think that's and I think as Hex pointed out, this is all relative to what you
absolutely.
hear, what you want to hear,
Yeah.
what rig you're playing, what
Yep.
guitar you're playing, what pedals you're using.
How loud you're playing it,
Yeah.
all that stuff.
So there is no one right answer.
There's
here.
there's four right answers.
There are 4 right answers. Each one is better than the stock Vox.
Yes, that is true. Well, anyways, again, we just huge thanks to everybody that helped out with that. Avatar speakers,
Yeah.
Amperian speakers,
Yep.
Fane, and Gullet, and Relay Recording,
Yes.
and Hex. Yes.
And
my
to
good-
Todd
And
for-
my good friend Jason, who filmed it.
Yes, and to Todd, who did the all of the editing that it required.
That was a monster
It
edit.
was.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Anyways, okay. We're moving out of the speaker thing. We got a would you rather, and then we're gonna wrap this up.
That's right, Todd, because at this point of the show is a little game that we like to play called Would You Rather?
Yes.
This week's Would You Rather is brought to us by our good friend Bob Crouch.
Bob Crouch.
Thank you, Bob.
Hey, Bob.
Here's the gist of the story, see? You've been invited to add guitar music to a movie score by a famous film director. Ooh la la. You don't know really anything about the genre of the film or what kind of tones, sounds, or musical pieces you'll be adding to the film, but you're feeling a little nervous because you don't know what gear you should use.
Okay.
You get to the studio, and there's 2 rigs. You have to choose one of the 2.
Okay.
The first rig is standard Telly, Les Paul, Strat, with a trem, a variety of vintage effects pedals, and 3 vintage tube amps of your choice.
That's like about half of Guitar Center.
Option 2 is a 7-string Ibanez with floating trem, an electric 12-string, an electric mandolin, a baritone guitar, and a Line 6 Helix going directly into the recording platform.
Wow.
So we're talking about two pretty dramatically different things. One pretty much all tried and true standard stuff, and the other a little maybe some more flexibility, some different sounds.
Did you actually specify what kind of soundtrack you were actually going to be recording?
Well, here's the thing, Hex. You know, time in the studio is expensive, and you still have no idea what the director is wanting from you in terms of the score. It could be just ambient noises and experimental pieces, or full-on blues leads and surf sounds. But you have to choose one of those two rigs.
Okay, thank you. All right. NPR time is over. So, Tony, what?
I was falling asleep. Go ahead.
That was my lullaby for you, Hex.
In the next episode, Tony's going to read War and Peace to us.
I might just do the war part.
Okay, Tony, what are you going with?
You know, I would have absolutely no use for a 7-string with a floating trem. I would, the electric 12 and the electric Mando and the Barry, that sounds good, but it's going into a Line 6. And I think to me, there is some disconnect there. So I think I'm going with what I would call the traditional vintage rig, the Telly, the Les Paul on a Strat. And depending on what type of vintage effects pedals, if we need ambient sounds, we could probably do something with that.
Yeah, like ambient sounds?
Yeah, ambient sounds.
Yes.
It's going to be an ambient.
Ambiance. Okay.
And then the 3 vintage tube amps of your choice. To me, that's
your comfort zone.
I'm most familiar with that, and I would be kind of out of sorts with the other stuff.
Yeah.
Except for the electric.
So the electric Mando. What you got to really
the baritone.
You got to really hope that it's an episode of Yellowstone or something. Okay.
Yes.
So Hex, what are you doing?
I'm actually gonna go with just like Tony said, and the thing is that like on a side note, I actually went to school for like film composing and stuff like that. So I do that on the side on my own thing here in my home studio, and the key part of it is time constraints. Is a hell of a lot easier to dial stuff on vintage gear with a Telecaster just to get particular sounds. It's more because, first of all, a Line 6 plugged in straight. I have spent days going through plugins in my studio.
Yeah.
And just with the time constraint factor, anything vintage that you can just put on the floor. Actually, it doesn't even have to be vintage. Pedals and amps that you can actually just like dial in and, that sounds good. Boom, go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be the best for me. The only thing on that other rig that I actually like was the baritone because I play the baritone.
Yeah, that's right.
And that was the only thing that actually like tickled my brain.
Yeah. On
that whole thing. Oh, baritone. Why couldn't the baritone be on the other rig? And then I'll be set.
Yeah. Well, in a surprising turn of events, I'm going with the second rig because
you're the Helix guy.
Well, no,
that's why.
Not even that. It's I have to do a lot of soundtracks for
that's
my
true
work.
For work. Yeah,
and usually it isn't a straight ahead sound or song. It's usually and by soundtracks I also mean like their sound design. So when you're it's one thing to go, well, hey, I'm going to make a song for this particular part in a video, but if you're creating sound design, if you're creating a mood through a certain thing, we just did one using our friend Mark Giacenzo, who was early on very helpful in getting us started with our rig that we have here. And he is a sound engineer specifically for video, and we do all kinds of crazy stuff. He's like my go-to for that, and it is anything but conventional for the most part. So I would hate to sit there and say, okay, I recorded this on a Telecaster, but I got to go and find a bunch of plugins to make it sound like a completely different instrument or make it sound.
You know
totally
how
weirded
old you
out.
just made me sound, Todd, by saying that?
Well,
It's like I feel like that old crotchety guy sitting on his porch with a shotgun. Get on my lawn.
Yeah, but I wouldn't want to play those on a day-to-day basis. If I knew I was like, I got to go make some moods and have a lot of versatility, it may only be that you ever only use the guitar, and I wouldn't use all 7 of the strings.
But
that's
you
for
see,
sure.
but here's the trick part of the question: time constraint.
Still, that all the more reason, because I could say, hey, I'm going to record this normal, but I have to give it some mood that I can't accomplish without going
so
through
you
all
can
these
actually
crazy
sit
plugins.
there and.
But see, if
I
you,
would rather pick up an instrument.
But you
that's
see,
gonna
but if you did that, let's say like you're playing like a line that sounds cool on the clean guitar, and then you're adding stuff after it's recorded, and you were like, oh,
That's
I
what I
wish I
mean.
would have done this. Or, I wish, oh my God, with this effect, I could have made it sound like this.
Yeah.
That takes time, dude.
But to me, the time
'Cause
is
I've
spent
been at-
sorting through all the plugins and changing the inherent character of whatever you put into that. Otherwise, just use the sine wave, whatever.
well, I think you could. I mean, given what pedals might be there, I think like a chorus pedal or a digital delay or an analog delay.
Yeah,
Yeah, but that's where you go through the plugins.
yeah, plugins.
But you know how many plugins there are?
That's what I'm saying. I don't want to get stuck in that. If I need to make it sound
Exactly.
like all creepy and moody, give me the baritone, and then I'm going to also use a mandolin in a weird way over the top. Boom. Okay, you figure out what you want to do. People who are thinking, sitting, driving, and all of the sound engineers are like, "Arg! You're both wrong." Yeah. Anyways, that was super fun. Thank you, Bob Crouch. Obviously,
thanks,
a
Bob.
very good question.
Yeah.
it is.
That's a
'cause
very good
We had
question.
a long discussion.
Yes. All right. We need to say thank you to a few people and let our buddy Hex go.
Yeah, that's right, Todd, because at this point of the show is a special group of people that we love to thank. We love to call them our executive producers. Now, an executive producer helps make this show possible. How do you become one? Easy as pie. Head over to patreon.com/the Guitar Knobs. Check out a couple different levels in which you can participate, become a friend, a hero, a sponsor. Ooh, a sponsor of the program. Each level comes with some very nice thank you gifts and opportunities to win special giveaways. Oh, yes. But in addition to all that great stuff, there is one thing more. What would that be? You know, name or something. I have to translate this every week. You get to have your name read on the thing, and that's what I'm going to do right now. So special thanks to these executive producers: John Sebastian, Trevor Ellenberg, Cameron Pampas, James Bell, Brett Hogarth, Don Kloss, Ralph Gottschalk from Wonderful Audio Technology. What? Rusty Sneeden, Vader and Pedals, John Alverson, Rick Calhoun, Trevor Gunberg, Elad Mizrahi, Richard Kendall, James White, Justin Jones, John Esterly from Rare Effects, Anthony Lathrop, Stefan Lamb, Michael Senchuk, Ken Sayers, Darren Gregory, Tom Brazen, Eric Merrow, Plutone, and Michael Davenport.
Excellent.
But Todd,
Yes.
there's
Perfect.
more. Because there's a special group
Ooh,
of
is my name
executive
coming up
producers.
now?
Shh. Hush now. Or I'm going to put you through the Line 6 helix.
No, please no.
So there is a special group of executive producers. We call them our Grand Poobahs. These are the creme de la creme, the top of the heap, the A number ones. And they wear a fez on their head whilst listening to the podcast. Do you have your fez on, Hex?
No. I'm going like, I'm in my office. I'm not in the studio. That's where the Fez lives.
Well, you have to promise me that when you listen to this episode, you will have your fez on your head.
I will put it on.
Excellent. So special thanks to these Grand Poobahs. Anthony Gemalero, Billy Spitfire Unlimited, Bob Crouch, Brian Robison, Cody Foster, David Kaminga, David Tyndall, Enrico Fernando, Fox Hill Studios, James Pennington, John Williams, LSJ Music Company, Matt Hart, Michael Van Zant, Michio Murakishi, Moon Guitars, Paul Von Eppinger, Sam Jett, Steve Keys, Tyler Casey Rhines, Zach Oswald from Brandon Wound Pickups, Pedro Vasquez, Gregory Randall, Mike Nazionale.
All right.
Oh, wait, there's one more. Hex Mattos!
Yay! Thank you very much, guys.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you. Okay, Tony, where
Yes.
can people find the things that you do and things that you make, etc.?
Head over to pickguardian.com. Check out what I do. I make special pick guards for special people. But how do you get one? Just drop me a line. Send me an email. Let me know what you're trying to do, what you need, what color you want, all the good stuff. I'll have some advice for you, and I'll take very good care of you.
And he's super fast because he's made pick guards for me and my bass player. So
Well, you guys get special treatment.
Perfect.
thank you. Oh, do we get the Bonamassa treatment too or no?
Now he's going to expect fast turnaround.
I know.
X, where can people find the things that you do?
You can actually find me on Instagram at Rocking Hex, and you can actually check out the Whiskey Daredevils on Instagram at Whiskey Daredevils. We don't have a Facebook right now because we just got hacked and we have to restart the page again.
Oh, no.
Thank you, Meta. And you can also find us at www.whiskeydaredevils.com. And that's pretty much it.
Cool.
Awesome. You can shoot me a DM on Instagram at Guitar Knobs. We'd love to hear from you. Tell us what you're up to. Tell us what you're into. Just reach out your hand and communicate. We do that back. I promise. Pretty much. Unless you're rude or something. Anyhow, I just want to say thank you to Tony and Hex for this is a lot of dedication to one subject, counting the actual video and everything.
It was fun, though.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys had fun. I hope everybody gets out and watches a video. Please go give it a watch.
Yeah.
On YouTube, the Guitar Knobs Podcast. You will find it. Give it a
Recommend
watch.
it to a friend.
Yep.
And we'd love to hear what you thought about the video.
Yep.
And did you actually get one of those speakers? We would love to know that.
Yeah, that's actually will be pretty interesting.
Yeah, and all the links are in there to actually go check out those products. So, anyways, without further ado, have a fantastic Guitar Week and subscribe! No, that's too much.
Wakey, wakey.
Yeah. But I did the thing
So
too is that
you're wrong. Plain and simple, you're wrong. If you need some guitar lessons or something like that, I might be able to help you out. Maybe train your ear a little bit.
I like things that taste like banana but aren't banana.
like sort of like this. If I would have freaking met you guys when I lived there, I wouldn't have moved.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Actually, there's a band out here called the Dutch Babies.
Isn't a Dutch baby like a pancake?
I think so.
Yeah,
I'm
something
pretty
like
sure
that.
it's that's like a German pancake, right?
It's a
It
Dutch,
is the same thing because you
it's a
make it in a
Dutch
Dutch
pancake.
oven.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's weird.
Isn't that where you fart underneath a...
No,
sheet?
that's a Dutch oven, which I'm not allowed to do anymore.
Yes.
So, it's too bad because we were going to give you top billing in the band. It was going to be like Hex and the Hellcats or something like that.
That'd actually be a really good band, dude.
Yeah. Fucking time.
And what's
It
the...
tastes like yellow. Real YouTube
Hey,
video that
Todd,
we ever
I'm
did.
going to
What?
need a clap. Can I go to the bathroom really quick?
I like it.
And away we go.
Well, that's it for these knobs. Please visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/The Guitar Knobs. Visit our website at theguitarknobs.com for all of our past episodes, 4 on the Floor blog, and other good stuff. You can connect with us on social too at our Facebook page and share your gear and stories on our Facebook group. Also, be sure to check out our Instagram at Guitar Knobs. Catch you next time.